All right, 6 o'clock. Call the October 16th meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody, and again, welcome to the Monday, October 16th, 2023 Credit River City Council meeting. We will begin with approving or amending the agenda. Does anybody have any changes for the agenda tonight? Hearing none, does somebody have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Leroy.
Second.
Thank you, Abe. So a motion and a second to approve the agenda as written. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Consent agenda. Those items on the council agenda which are considered routine or non-controversial are included as part of the consent agenda. Unless a council member specifically requests that an item on the consent agenda be removed and considered separately, items on the consent agenda are considered under one motion, a second, and a vote. Any item removed from the consent agenda shall be placed at the end of general business. Tonight, on the consent agenda, we have approval of the October 2nd, 2023 City Council meeting minutes. Number 2, approve a pay application number 1 for self-passage wastewater treatment system. Number 3, approve resolution 2023-28 to transfer capital funds to the Monterey Heights South Passage Subordinate District Fund as an inter-fund loan. Number 4, claim approval and transfer of funds. Number 5, approval of a snowplow contract with Mark's Bobcat Service. And number 6, approve the release of a construction manager request for proposal for the government center. Is there anything on the tonight's consent agenda that anybody would like to pull and consider separately?
I just have a clarifying question here. On
Yes, Mark.
the check summary that we got in front of us, that's different than the one in the meeting packet. We're approving this one that we have in our hand, and that'll be posted then on the website. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, one question on Mark's Bobcat. Now, that may go up a little bit from what he previously was charging, because if we do more hours, usually he only plowed it Tuesdays. So if we have to plow this more often.
Because it's by the hour contract.
Yeah. So I'm just
The total cost.
throwing that out there.
But the rates are the same.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
One more clarifying question then. What's different about this? Cause this is the first time I've seen it. Or I missed it. That highlights the only thing?
Yeah,
Para.
it's a
Okay,
higher number by that.
okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
All right. So anybody want to ask questions about the minutes or the
The other two.
Minnesota City's, look, guys.
all right. So if everybody's all right with consent agenda, then I would take a motion to approve.
Make that motion.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll second it.
I'll take Jay on that one.
Okay.
Motion and a second to approve consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Open forum. The public forum is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the council. The public forum will be no longer than 30 minutes in length, and each presenter will have no more than 5 minutes to speak. Topics of discussion are restricted to local governmental topics rather than private or political agendas. The council may discuss, but will not take formal action on public forum presentations. If anybody would like to speak in open forum tonight, I do ask that you step to the podium and sign in and go on. Good evening, Peter. Hold that square button down till the green light comes on. There you go.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
My open forum topic is on your general business item 7.1, the Dominion voting quote. Looking at the agenda packet for 7.1, there was a point that was talking about that information relevant to these concerns can be found at the following website, and that's about setting the record straight. Facts about Dominion and Dominion voting systems. I pulled that up and was interesting to find that that came from Dominion voting themselves. So I thought that's kind of an interesting where they're talking themselves up a little bit. So I took that as a challenge and went on the website myself and found I thought were 2 interesting news articles, both by NBC News. I apologize. I sent them out today to all the to the council members and to the mayor. I didn't know if you had a chance to see them. One was dated January 10th, 2020, talking about online and vulnerability. Experts find nearly 36 US voting systems connected to the internet. And that was, I provided a link to that. I did send a separate email. Sorry, they weren't connected with the same email, so I had to do it twice. And then this one also from NBC News, dated June 16th, 2023. Expert reports fuel election doubts as Georgia waits to update voting software. And in all these cases, they're talking about online. And this one talked about Dominion specifically. This one about online vulnerability, they talk about three systems, the three main ones, which include Dominion. And basically, I was looking at one of the facts in here, they were talking about, just as a counterpoint that I was looking for, that I looked at the setting the record straight on page 2 of 6, they talk about a MITRE National Election Security Lab and talk about their analysis, which Dominion says shows that there was no evidence or compromise. Where in the article dated January 10th, 2020, they basically talk about that particular study. Let's see, where's that at? Oh, maybe no, it was the, excuse me. One. Oh, it was the Georgia one, where they talked about the MITRE entire analysis is predicated on an assumption known to be wrong. They say in an open letter, MITRE's analysis isn't simply wrong, it's dangerous, since it surely leads states like Georgia to postpone installing Dominion software updates and implementing other important mitigations. So I think the two articles, if you had a chance to read them, gives you a little more insight other than what Dominion was providing. Not to throw anything bad at Dominion, but one thing they pointed out is if any of this equipment are attached to modems, anything that has any kind of a connection to an internet, they talk about maybe even the local machines may not be, but when you get up in the higher state level, that's where maybe you might have some problems too. I thought these two articles were fairly well informative. That's why I wanted to share it with the council, just have them look at, hopefully prior to the vote tonight. And I thought that you would enjoy the reading on that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else for open forum tonight?
That's right.
Denise Peterson, 8030 165th Street East. I just really want to dovetail on what Peter said. That there's just a lot of concerns still. There's cases still being brought up, still doing battle on it. And I just think it would be prudent to delay as long as possible, referring back to 4 weeks ago now, actually, when I spoke up here. It took 4 years for the Marriott Starwood hacking to come to light. What are we at right now? 3 years. It happens. It happens all the time. I've had credit cards multiple times during my life that have been hacked, and I've had to have them replaced and had to go through ordeals to fix that. Voting machines are no different. On alternate media, there's people that have hacked the machines. There exists stolen, or not even stolen, but purchased voting machines out on the in Goodwills. I mean, they can be picked up and tinkered with and learned how to work with. There's cases on that too. I'm just asking that you just please delay as long as possible. I would hate to see the city lose however many $20,000, $40,000 to something that the law may change. If it comes out that this was all, there was fraud, that's a huge expense. And that law would change in a blink of an eye if that happens. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Anybody else for open forum tonight?
Burn plat, 165th Street, East 7210. I recognize people's opposition to whatever. That's fine. Give me some solutions. That's all I'm saying. You can say no to whatever, but say, let's do this. You know, and this is cheaper, this is better, this is whatever. So, not referring to anything, I'm just saying, let's just see some solutions.
All right, thank you,
And,
Vern.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay. Anybody else for open forum tonight?
Yeah, one quick thing. Darcy, happy anniversary. I know you're watching.
Jay's here on the 41st,
41st.
41st anniversary. Commitment. All right, we'll close open forum. No presentations of public hearings tonight, so we'll move down to general business. 7.1 Dominion vote quote tabulator and accessories. Administrator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, the Dominion voting machine is, the tabulator is back on the agenda for council's action. We've had it here to consider on numerous occasions. I know Councilor Zanto at the last meeting was able to provide information in regards to his conversations with the county on the machine, and the city already owns 2 of them. We use them. They will be utilized at the precincts. The 2 precincts that we have, the 3rd machine is for the early voting and as kind of a backup in case one machine goes down. We do not have the option to return to hand ballots by state statute. We do need to have something in place. This is the machine that's utilized by the county. You know, the other one is we were talking to him the other day, this isn't connected to the internet during the course of the election. It connected at the end of the evening via cellular to submit the data to the state. So it's not connected while it's being utilized at any point in time during the elections. So we do need to move forward with this at this point in time and to figure out how we're going to proceed with our elections as we're setting up. As we have 3 elections in 2024, all of which require 18 days prior early voting, plus then the election day. So if there's any questions, happy to address it, but hopefully we can take a vote on this evening.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. Council members, any questions, comments?
I can't support this.
When we first got these, it was about I think it was a year in advance, we had to commit to it. Sign the contract with county. So I can't imagine that they're gonna come any quicker if we delay it any longer, so.
I gave my opinion 2 meetings ago on
Yeah.
on it. I don't know if you want me to repeat it. Last year, I had a chance to witness, at least in the primaries, how it worked, and I was satisfied that everything was up and up, and I didn't see any fraud or anything connected to anything that seemed odd, and the results of the elections seem reasonable to me. But that's just my experience. There's nothing out in front of us that says, well, what's the alternative? Because any system like Dominion, there's 3 others or 2 others, they could get hacked just as easily, I think, as Dominion, in my opinion. But I'm not an expert at any of this stuff, but as far as waiting as long as possible, it's $9,273 rounded. That's not a great deal of money. And if something would have ever happened, I think we could afford going after our $9,000 back or doing something, but it's not material in my mind to hold on and wait and then get to a point point where we're not gonna get it in time for next year, and I don't know what the deadline is, and we don't know what it is, but. So I'm satisfied with moving ahead with this, since we already have, the other thing that worries me a lot is that I know how much. Support we got from Julie Hanson and the others at Scott County, and the training and all that stuff that went with it. And we would be on our own, and I'm not comfortable with that. And we have one year from now to do all that, not even 1 year, primaries are in August. So, that was the other reason why I would say we would have, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't disagree, Bill. You know, again, with 2 precincts, with the early voting regulations, we can't go back to hand count, so there's not much of an option there. If we were to decide to go to different technology or something like that, we would be on our own. We would be responsible for the security and for the liability of the whole thing. So, like it or not, I mean, we're kind of in a position because that's the direction that the county has taken, and that's what the administrator of the county elections has brought us, and we've used them successfully in the past. And I don't see any reason at this point to go in a different direction.
And we have a contract with them.
How long is the contract?
It's the county's contract,
Yeah,
and I don't know what the contract.
I-
was.
I don't know. How long's the
Yeah.
contract, Abe, you were over there talking to him?
I didn't ask that question, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it all comes down to why can't we get ballot images? To your point, you didn't see anything? How do we know? I mean, there's no way to validate this is actually working. In the world I live in, you have to have proof that it is working. So I think the point that I'm trying to make is, are there more cities that would actually stand up and create a fight if they knew other people were there? So I'm in full agreement, our hands are tied. Totally agree, but I don't think we need another machine in order to prove what we're trying to prove, and why don't we talk about a different approach? I think that if you can't prove that the ballot images vote match the vote cast record, which match the numbers.
And is there
The
a
machine.
system out there that does exactly what you just said?
Yeah, Dominion, but Minnesota law won't approve it because in certain areas, you might have one person that wrote a write-in, and now you know who it was, and you don't have that. And I think that's just, I don't have a good word to say for it. And so I just think that, can we live without the third one? Yes. Does it make our lives more difficult? Yes. But will other cities hear about other cities willing to stand up and say, is there a different approach? Yes, there is different approaches. Is it more difficult? Yes, but is our election valuable enough to actually make sure that we're doing it right?
Yes. I'm
That's what I
confused
said.
on when you just said that we only need 2, you wanted to have 3, and I thought the state law said we have to have 3 now because there's early voting.
The early voting would take the third machine. If we don't have that, then you're sitting here and you're having to do some administrative back and forth and ins and outs and different steps that you'll have to take with one machine in order to utilize it for the early voting, and then taking it and I can't speak to how it all works, but switching it out to then do the election day and then having to go back to the other stuff to submit the report and get the reporting out of it. So a lot of administrative back and forth. And if you want to talk about a chance for more problems, I think that's where we're going to encounter them, is with all of the finagling of the systems back and forth to do this, to do your early voting numbers, and then to do your actual vote date numbers, and then back to that to submit all your reports and get everything done. And then if one machine does happen to go down on election day, we're out. We don't have a backup, so we'd be chasing around to other communities to see if there's a backup. That, machine available somewhere else in some other community that we could then get uploaded and put into the position that we could use it here in the meantime. What's going on with our elections and how we process it.
Did Scott County give us a recommendation on having a third?
it is the recommendation that you have. When we had one precinct, we had the two machines, the service,
Mhm.
the precinct, and then your backup. Well, now we have two precincts, we have two machines, so now what we're doing is getting the third machine to serve as the backup. But now you've added into this the addition of the 18 days
Pre-vote.
previous for early elections that the state has now mandated. So now you have another reason for that third machine.
And now
not
we're
just a
gonna have
backup.
two locations as well. They both precincts will not be in this building.
If it goes up to me, I'd hand vote. I go back to that whole action.
Well, and that's the point I'm trying to make is other cities think the same way, but they're afraid to stand up. So can we be the beacon of hope for Minnesota?
Still don't know how much time we got.
We don't, but I don't think, I understand there's administrative work. Heck, I'll volunteer to help. Not sure if I can, but anyways.
You have to be a judge.
Election judge.
I know, that's why I said I'm not sure I can. But I don't think it's that big of an administrative nightmare to push forward to get some awareness that there's other people that disagree with us.
I've had a lot of people call, say,
But they're concerned about the hacking, right, Jay?
they're concerned about the hacking and safety of and the safety of the integrity of the votes. And these people are election judges. These people work in elections. And they've contacted me and talked to me about it, said they would really like to see something different. I would like to see something different. I look at it, and if this thing costs us 10 grand. And, you know, we're talking about we're talking about spending 50% more of what we have now. So. What if we do spend 30 and we buy 3 new ones? Of something
More than
different,
30.
or they're more than 30 or whatever, but what if we do that? And then we sell what we have, I'm sure there's a market for the 2 that we have. And, yeah, exactly, so, whatever, but I mean, I'm just saying. Make the change.
Then you
We've got
put
enough
yourself
time to
into
change.
being responsible for the
Well, we
setup,
might.
the security, then and the liability.
Yeah, we might.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that everything processes through the county election administrator, and I quite frankly do not know that we have the option to use something different, because that's the system that they utilize. All the results come back to them and then get tallied up and sent, and they submit to the state. I
Well, we
don't
should
know
have
that
we
you
should
have that ability to go to a different system, because that's why we're all on the system. They own the operations and maintenance contract and maintain all that. They do all of the uploading. They, as the election administrator, have the requirements and the responsibility to do all the uploading of the data and everything into the system. That's not at the locality and the city level.
You're right.
That was why when they went to the Dominion, they looked at all 3 of them. And came up with Dominion and had each township sign a contract with them. For the Dominion, so that would all be on the same network. So. Otherwise, like Chris stated, if you wanted to go with something different, you were out in a limb by yourself. So. And responsible for security and everything else, because they wouldn't be.
Well, we're also responsible for protecting the votes.
Absolutely. So in 2 months, kicking this can around in here, have you come up with a solution for
Yeah.
it? Okay. Then I make a motion to approve the Dominion tabulation.
Okay. Got a motion and a second to approve the purchase of the 3rd Dominion vote tabulator and accessories. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
And they,
So vote passes 3-2. Let's move on to 7.2 remote work policy, Administrator Reynolds.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, tonight we have the remote work policy. We are putting together kind of our base policies for the city at this point in time. The remote work policy is one of those ones, as remote work has become more and more popular and more frequent in the post 2020 COVID world. So as we look at hiring and have the recruitment ongoing for our planner and kind of where we're at, wanting to get a policy in place to kind of firmly explain, what our policy is as far as remote work is concerned. This draft of the policy that you have for you to approve this evening is based off of the League of Minnesota Cities model remote work policy that has been worked through and tailored in for looking at our community and what we have. It provides for employees to be able to work partially remote or 100% remote, depending on what the position is, depending upon if the work that they are doing allows for the work to be remote. And it has to be done with the approval of any supervisor that we may have for them in the future, and the city administrator as we look at it. It kind of makes clear that remote work hours are not to be used for personal activities, running errands, substituting for daycare, those types of avenues. If those happen during the course of a remote work day, then they need to be taking their PTO time to do it. In addition, this does formalize a remote work schedule with an employee so that there is set days and hours that we know that they are working if they're working in a remote work setting. And like I said, that remote work schedule is really more for kind of that more permanent remote work schedule, temporary remote work. They're doing something, may take 1 or 2 days that they're doing some remote work or for a project or anything along those lines that would be coordinated and worked out with the employee supervisor and the city administrator to ensure that we're working on this correctly. So happy to answer any questions that you may have on the policy.
Thank you, Kathy. Questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got 2 questions, comments. I'm not sure which they are yet.
A little bit of both.
Back to security. What do we have for our VPN for remote access into our networks?
We don't have really a network. Everything is cloud-based with our Office 365 and SharePoint files. So we don't have a server here, so we don't have any network that people are logging into.
Do we have any encryption whatsoever? Okay.
No.
I am concerned with that. A real world example. My son was in the hospital. I worked at the hospital on my computer, and I took down the email server the next day when I sent out 40,000 emails to Denmark. Right. It's just very easy. So, I mean, as we're moving around, I'm not saying this has to be solved here tonight, but I think we need to look at that from a data privacy, especially as we're out and about. If I'm sitting next to Dominique's house and she's at home, I could theoretically grab any of her network traffic and potentially get some of that. So I think it's something we need to look at. The second thing is there was something in here about working out of state. And I know that causes a concern for one of our current employees for a temporary amount of time. So I'm just concerned or questioning what's that temporary mean on that phrase.
Right now, it's something like what to do, it needs to be defined. It's temporary to meet anything.
Especially with where we are right now.
Right. And I understand. I mean, we have the current scenario and the current situation that we're in that was approved by the council in the past. That is ongoing. I would look at temporary moving forward under this policy. Anything that would be approved under this policy would be based off of it is a short term out of state. I'll put it, out there. My example is, next week I'll be in Kentucky helping get ready for my son's wedding. I'll be doing some remote work from Kentucky, and then some PTO time as I'm doing whatever assistance it is getting ready for his wedding at the end of the month. That's to me is temporary out of state, because once we go full-time out of state, then you start facing, workers' comp, where you have to be paying workers' comp in 2 different states. You have to start paying income, state income tax in 2 different states. And that creates an administrative burden on our limited amount of staff that we currently have. So, You know, temporary to me is something more along those lines. It's not something that you would be looking at that would be long-term. Now, I do understand the situation we're in right now that was approved by council, and that's, you know, not that one changing at this point in time, but it is, and also, you know, when you look at policy says that to be available to come into the office if need be, even if it is a remote work day to cover for meetings and so forth, because there's work that needs to be done. And you have to be available to do that, and when you're permanent out of state, that makes that hard. So,
See, I wasn't thinking that in your example of that, this is related to going away for a weekend and working part of the time away. I thought this is like the person who's gonna be gone for months at a time and they want to remotely work. I'm used to salaried employees have to get the job done no matter where they are, so you just work to get the job done. And if you're on vacation, maybe you have to answer emails early in the morning. That's just the way it is. That's part of the job. So
I think COVID changed a lot of that,
I
right?
know.
Yes.
Getting an RV and you start going down to Tennessee
Well-
and just working your RV.
Jerry, we
right?
were just talking about that before the council meeting of the property values and on lake homes in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin.
Right,
Because everybody realizing that they can work remote like that, right?
right.
You know, the intention of this is to, you know. Put a policy in place where the supervisor and the employee can work out what that schedule looks like, and it's not a, you know, it doesn't end up being. The months on end
right.
piece of it.
and this is really geared towards, it's kind of two focus. It is for temporary for, you know, yeah, more importantly for the hourly employee that's, you know, out there, but you know, if it's a temporary schedule where it's like, okay, something's going on and they need to work temporarily or want to work temporarily from home, project based, you know, temporary work from home for a certain project. This allows us to do that with the approval of the city administrator to say, yes, that makes sense for this on a temporary basis. Or for that more permanent remote work schedule where maybe they're working 3 days a week from the office and 2 days a week from home, kind of a scenario. Or potentially it does allow in there for 100% remote work. But that's based off of, can the job be done 100% remote?
And we had one of our previous clerks. Was a stewardess and she wanted to take a laptop with her so she could do work, and we said, no, you can have here or at home, that's it, it's not flying around the country, so.
Okay, any other thoughts or questions?
Can I just wrap that
Yeah.
temporary then? So I know we made the agreement with our current clerk. This now comes in and supersedes, it doesn't, what does that mean when we would approve this language? It's on page 2, it's the second to last bullet point. The employee will be allowed to temporarily work outside the state of Minnesota with city administrator approval. So the way I read that, that means that we have another task at hand that we have to figure out then, if that's exactly how that's read.
I look at that and say, you know, moving forward, that would be definitely where I'm at, is temporarily outside the state of Minnesota. You know, like I said, in unique situations, this one where it's been approved, we'll have to evaluate how we handle it underneath this policy, for moving forward. Not looking to make any drastic changes right at this point in time, but you know, it's looking at it and how does that all work out under the policy? At this point in time, based on where it's at, I would be putting together the schedule, and getting everything formalized more into an hourly. Okay, these are the hours of availability. Which we're looking at and focused on our current, you know, kind of the typical 8 to 4:30 government day that we see in for most governments, and focusing that on our availability to our citizens. And seeing how we move forward from there.
Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? Otherwise, if you guys are okay with it, I would take a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jay.
And second,
Thank you, Abe. We have a motion and a second to approve the remote work policy. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we've got approved pavement patching on Casey Court. Who's got that one? Is Shane?
Shane is.
Shane's on, you got that one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet, you'll see just a picture of the area in question or the area proposed to be patched. This was actually referred to us or received as a complaint from a resident. So staff had went out and looked at the pavement, and we agree that patching is necessary before winter plowing begins. That pavement that's appears to be broken up will likely just disappear or end up in the adjacent yard with the plowing activities. So we obtained 2 quotes for patching 889 square yards. The quotes include milling out this bad pavement on both sides of the road. And then it would be just an overlay from basically the yield sign to kind of behind where this picture was taken. The quote from Prior Lake Blacktop has been received. Was in the amount of $13,750. We also received a quote from Northwest Asphalt in the amount of $16,891. Both quotes were received after the agenda was posted, which is why they're not included in your packet tonight, but we do have them. We did receive both of them by email. So with that, I would recommend that the city accept the quote from Prior Lake Blacktop in the amount of $13,750.
Okay, thank you, Shane. Council members, any questions or thoughts on that?
Shane, can you tell whether this is caused by any type of like illegal trucks parking there, or is this just old pavement?
Mr. Mayor, I didn't quite catch the question.
So Bill, Councilmember Market is asking whether or not if we can determine that there's a cause for this pavement failure here, whether it be, something like a heavyweight truck parking there or operation of anything else at that particular location that would cause this spot.
I can't say with any certainty if there's anything that happened. I haven't witnessed anything myself. The pavement is very old, so it's likely very brittle, and just like more than anything could be attributed to the age of the pavement.
Okay. Thank you, Shane. Bill, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
when staff went out, was there other areas that also were there? If they're coming out and we can save some money on one trip versus two, was there anything else that was noticeable?
There was nothing else noticeable in this development. I'll qualify that with saying we didn't go and drive all the roads, when we received this complaint, so.
Yep.
There could be others, but this is the only one that we're aware of.
Sure.
And I did go out with Shane to look at this. And there were a complaint on some potholes on Casey Parkway coming into the development. Those were patched probably 2 weeks ago. On a slow day. Prior Lake Blacktop had extra mix, so they went down and did it. So. This was the only issue that is gonna present a problem if we don't get frost and the snow plow hits it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
Okay.
This is budgeted for things like this.
I think we have 10,000 left yet.
We had money in the budget still for be able to handle.
Okay, any further questions?
I'll make a motion, we do it.
Thank you, Jay.
Prior Lake at 13,750.
All right, thank you, Jay. Got a motion? Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Leroy. I've got a motion and a second to approve The pavement patch in Casey Court, using the vendor Prayer Lake Blacktop at a cost of $13,750. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Move on to staff and council member updates. Administrator Reynolds, I think, know you had a couple things.
I do, Mayor. Thank you very much. Putting up the 2023 our building permit report, trying to get to a point where we can provide these updates to you on a monthly basis. So providing the report showing where we're at year to date through the end of September. September saw 84 applications coming into the system. As you can see, August and September were pretty high in comparison to the rest of the year as far as the applications coming in. So there are 84 applications. There were 12 major permits issued. We have 67 minor permits issued for a total of 79 issued. Some of the differences, they may still be working on. Some of those that may have been issued may have came in much earlier in the year. It's just depending on waiting on documents to be resubmitted, pending payments, various things that will hold them. So that's kind of all that review process as you look at the numbers, kind of the variations through there. So what we have there is 357 permits that have been issued year to date. And just kind of a side note on that one is you see the right of way permits and you see that there's only 2 that are marked there. I know there's probably more in the lines of about 20 of those that we've had year to date, but we found out that those have not been marked issued and are sitting in earlier statuses still in the system. And so until somebody goes in and adjusts the system to show that they've actually been issued, that's not updated. So those numbers will flux a little bit in there as you look at that one. So 455 applications year to date. So far, 357 of them are reported as issued in the system. New construction, we still show 13. That number has not changed. We didn't get in the last couple of weeks of September since I did this last time. We did not get any more new home constructions in. The permit valuation for the major permits, this isn't looking at the minor permit work, but just the major permits are over $16 million in valuation for the construction that's going on inside city limits. So you kind of scroll on down here, you can see the permit fees that we have brought in on these. So the major permit fees over $358,000, minor permit fees and just under $30,000. We look at a total for the permit fees of approximately $410,000. This is coming straight out of CitizenServe. So CitizenServe does get some of the escrow funds paid in through there. So of that 410,000, we're going to say roughly 74,000 of that is escrow funds. So that number is kind of a, just an overarching number coming out of CitizenServe. So looking at the escrows and the permit fees that we've received, but that's the year to date fees for, coming out of the CitizenServe on permits that we've had. So it's kind of where we stand at this point in time. If there's any questions, I look forward to next year being able to do a historical trend analysis using CitizenServe. We just don't have the files and reports to be able to do a good analysis to 2022.
Yeah, the major permits weren't online the whole time. So yeah.
And major is home builds. What constitutes major?
Your new construction, your home build or remodels will go into their
Swimming pools.
swimming pools gets into major.
Things that require review.
Yeah. So more. So those are a lot of your bigger ones. Your re-roofing, your siding, your new windows, your ACs. Those kinds of things are in your minor permits.
Mhm.
And then his application is called in once. If someone fills out an application that's not done properly, it doesn't include all the information that's needed. Does it get rejected and then they can reapply? So it comes twice.
No. It's basically put into a status and they need to submit additional data. That's the system allows them to go in, send them back a complete notice. And then they can come back in and submit the additional paperwork that's needed. So. There's no other questions on the building report. That's
No.
where we stand year to date for our buildings. just a couple other announcements and notices for the council. Our next city council meeting will be on November 6th. Monday, November 6th, Tuesday, November 7th is the election. And the Lakeville School District is having an election, so there will be an election here at the City Hall office City Hall offices on the November 7th. So City Hall office hours for that Tuesday morning will be canceled because we can't have office hours during an election. We'll reschedule those to November 9th. So Thursday, November 9th from 8:30 to 12, we'll have office hours that week, or our official formal office hours, as I say repeatedly. If you see the car in the parking lot and I'm here, feel free to stop in. If I'm not in the meeting, I will happily assist and help individuals as they come in. But for official hours, we'll have them on Thursday, November 9th that week. So that's all I have. to
That's all you
say.
got? Okay.
That's it.
I got
Leroy.
one thing, as of this week, we can start trimming the oak trees. Otherwise, we couldn't touch them during the summer because of some. Yeah, that's what it is. And so they're gonna go at, there's 3 or 4 big branches hanging over in Casey's addition, and there's 2 other spots. I can't remember where they are. Got them notes, but So-
We're over budget on tree trimming for 2023.
okay. He'll hold the bill till next year. Well, then we'll just get the couple hanging in Casey's. Because they are hard on the plow trucks. Okay,
Okay. Anything else?
nope.
Abe, anything? No? Jay, Bill? All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, the end of our agenda, if somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Abe.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Leroy. Got a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, everybody, for joining.